Okay, so today I would like to talk about the evolution of HTML5 games. Some of you may know me. I was a front-end developer and I switched to HTML5 games. I'm running Enclave Game Studio, organizing JS13K Games competition, some meetups, I have a newsletter and all the stuff. So basically, if you can imagine something with about HTML5 games, I'm probably doing that already. And I would like to compare the year 2011 with current 2019, because in 2011 there was an On Game Start conference during which well, there was more people than on the picture. It's from the W3C workshop, where W3C discussed the future of HTML5 games, which I participated in. And why 2011? It was also because it was the year when I was building simple HTML5 games, promoting front-end conferences, just to get free tickets. And it worked. So next year, after that, I was giving a talk called Is HTML5 Ready for Gaming? And it kind of was. You could build something that you could name an HTML5 game. But we had a whole bunch of issues. The canvas performance was terrible. It was nowhere near native performance. It was totally crappy. Usually when you build a game in 2011, it was either really painful to hear what somebody tried to call music or sounds, or you basically build a game without any sounds at all. You couldn't play more than one sound at all, which was also really challenging. So usually we were just creating games without any audio. It was just easier. The concept of games working offline, some of the developers were trying that. There were many different technologies. Out of them, none worked the way the developers wanted. So it was really painful and challenging. Most of the APIs we were using were really experimental. This was changing every few weeks. And it was really, really hard to have something stable. After 2 months, everything crashed. So it was really, really painful. And we usually used front-end tools to achieve something. So it was really we were really in need of some specific tooling for game development, which is quite different from front-end development. And so basically, there was no monetization at all. You could try to package your game to the native stores, but there was no way to monetize the games properly. The good news are, it kind of works right now. All the technical issues we had were defeated, and from the technical point of view, all the stuff I talked about should work. We can run 3D environments. We can play 3D games smoothly in the browser with 60 frames per second, and that's really cool. We can play sounds. We can create sounds. There was a talk a few days ago where someone was playing guitar on stage using web audio, which was really cool. We can have the games or applications or whatever work offline with PWAs, progressive web apps, which is also a really cool thing. And the web API support is really great. So basically, if you want to use something, it's most probably really stable, and you shouldn't have any problems with that. There are plenty of tools, editors, online editors, offline editors, whatever. You can build 2D games with them. You can build 3D games. You can export them to any possible platform, which is really, really cool. There are even games. So basically, the JS13K Games competition is about building games in 13 kilobytes. So like the small images on the website showing the games are bigger than the games themselves. So as you can see, even with those limitations, you can build really, really cool games. So you have like literally thousands of games, which are really, really good. So I can safely say the technology is sufficient. We can already build games we wanted to build for so many years. But then some other problems appeared. So one thing is discoverability, because with so many developers, so back in 2011, if you created a game, you just published it, and that was it. Then the game was featured on like dozens of articles called the best 30 HTML5 games, because basically there was literally 30 games total around the world. So everybody knew each other because it was like repeated over and over again with the exact same games. So if you did a game, you were super popular back then. You then didn't have to do anything, basically. Right now, since the technology is good enough to build games, and even if you don't have much experience, even if you built some front-end websites before, you can start building HTML5 games and don't have much problem with that. There are new developers we didn't know existed, and they are saying, hey, we've built 500 games. And there are like hundreds of developers like this. So it's really, really hard to be noticed, to stand out of the crowd. And the other problem connected to the first one is monetization, because if you can't be noticed, if you can't reach out the audience, how will you make a living out of that? And this changed over the years. In 2011, you could sell a license for a game, get paid immediately, and that was it. You could look for a different publisher who would like to get the same game on their portal. Then it kind of moved to subscriptions, which are still kind of popular, but in the past 2 or 3 years, main focus is on advertisements. So basically, you have to implement, as a game developer, you have to spend dozens of hours on implementing some crappy APIs to show some adverts of the publisher, and then wait half a year to see the report that all of the games have earned $1 total, and you have to look for a different publisher. That sucks. The different thing that evolved over the years was that if your game was successful, somebody would try to steal the source code and then sell it as theirs, change the logo, etc. But right now, with the technology allowing us to build games quickly, instead of like trying to steal the source code, they can just copy the game. So basically, there is a company called Ketchup, which have pretty popular games. So whenever they release a new game, like 3 to 5 days later, there is like a flood of crappy clones of the exact same game, which is really annoying. Even though we have the discoverability and monetization problems, I still think there is a bright future for HTML5 games. So the technology is good enough. We can kind of work on the discoverability and monetization issues. So there was basically the first workshop that was held at the OnGames.net conference in 2011. We had some learnings from that. And the second workshop was hosted this year, a few months ago, where, again, the future of HTML5 games was discussed. And the good news are we can already see things that were discussed that are being worked on. We can still improve the technology, even though it's good enough to build some games. We can still see this working better in the future. So progressive web apps, for example, that's a perfect fit for HTML5 games, so you can launch the game on the phone without installing it, and the game itself will have native features of working offline, etc., etc. So I can totally imagine the death of progressive web apps in the next few years. So any of you know what the RWD stands for? Responsive web design. So basically, we are using responsive. So like a few years ago, there was this new thing called responsive web design. And everybody was like, yeah, that's cool, but like not relevant to my work. And fast forward a few years, we basically build websites with the responsive web design in mind, but we don't call this responsive web design anymore because it's just building websites. So I can totally see not using progressive web app as a name for building games and websites in the next few years because it's the next step in the evolution, and in the next few years we'll all build websites or games with progressive web apps features because why not? It's the next step. It just adds some cool stuff to our creations. There was a discussion a few months ago, I think. So there is the WebXR, which is the virtual reality on the web. And we had the discussion that if you can build something like Beat Saber, which is basically a smash hit, if you can build it on the web, then we are quite far with the technology itself. And somebody took that seriously and built something called Moonrider, which is basically Beat Saber, but you kind of smash the things coming at you or something like that. So given it's the web, it's for free, and there are like thousands of songs you can try yourself, which is cool. Somebody heard about WebAssembly? So it's still new, but it can help with, like, if you're exporting a huge AAA title to the web, you will have this a lot faster with, like, the game itself will be a lot faster if you're using WebAssembly. But this can also be used on tiny projects. For example, the game from last year, actually, the Interplanetary Postal Service, the game in 13 kilobytes was using WebAssembly to simulate fluids. So you had to operate the spaceship and like land on a specific spot. And you could see the flow of the air or something, which was really cool. So you can use WebAssembly for any type of project, basically. There is something called WebGPU, which allows you to experiment with 3D and render that on the graphics card instead of like killing the CPU all the time, which sounds really cool for games or any types of animations. So it looks like the future will be about mixing all those technologies, trying to come up with something interesting that comes out of that. We've created a game in like 2012 or 13, which kind of played with that concept. So basically it was a game that you played on mobile, and you just tap on the screen and the fridge was eating stuff. Yeah, and you had to choose the good one, and I don't mean the good one, the healthy one, but it changed constantly from good one to bad one, and yeah, you have to be quick. So if you launch the exact same game on desktop and connected a gamepad, you could drive a tank and shoot at the food. So it was an interesting concept of how having a game which progressively enhanced the experience when it was launched on different devices. So I can totally imagine someone building a hyper-casual 2D game right now, which will work offline with progressive web apps. If you launch it on a VR device, it could be a 2D game with 3D effects or fully 3D game. We already have the technology for that. It can be speed up with web GPU calculations, with WebAssembly, and if the device that launched the game is still super crappy, you can stream all the experience from the cloud. So that was the part about improving the technology itself. How do you improve discoverability? So this was discussed at the W3C workshop this year. So there is an idea that is being worked on already that you can extend the schema.org and add some information. If you're publishing a game on the web, you can inform the browser or the user or search engine or whatever about some specific things like how do you earn money on the game, if it's paid or free, if it's a multiplayer or what's the genre of the game, etc., etc. So for example, if somebody is looking for the game, they could see another tab in the search engine specifically for the games, like we have the video. So for example, there could be a GIF or like a video or whatever, some information when it was published, etc., etc. So this could allow people to try to search and look for the games they kind of saw somewhere or like heard about it and want to find them. A totally separate discussion on the monetization part. That went really interesting. At the workshop, I think it was June. Since that time, in the span of a few years, this really changed a lot. So at the workshop, I was like, so monetization is not working. Monetization on the web is not working. We have the adverts, but they really suck in terms of privacy and everything else. And it would be good to have something that could help with that. So the question was what? I was like, I don't know, whatever, let's try something. And then web monetization appeared. So it's interesting that there is a proposal for an open standard to the W3C about the web monetization API, which sounds exactly what I would like to use. So basically, this was after discussing this at the workshop in Seattle, there was a company called Coil which started the discussion about web monetization. And we kind of experimented with that and got really cool results. And if you know the JS13K Games competition, we had the web monetization category. So you could submit a game in 13 kilobytes, and at the same time, you could already monetize your game submitted to the competition. So if somebody who is a subscriber, which I'm going to explain in a minute, visits the game, then the author was already paid some real money. Micro amounts, but still. So in total, we had 48 entries utilizing web monetization. Some really cool ones, like Backcountry, where you could buy you were shooting at cowboys and you could buy a fancy hat if you're a paying subscriber or something like that. So all of those games were implementing some different features specifically for the web monetization. So that's cool, but how does that actually work? So there's a company called Coil, which operates on the Interledger protocol, which helps send information through the web. So it's basically like browsing the web, but you basically send money. And the cool thing is, so Coil is just the first company which offers a service. And since this is a proposal for an open standard, any company can compete with Coil. But they're just first. So basically, you can register on Coil, and if you pay $5 a month, you will have access to all the web monetized content there is in the world. So how do you actually monetize your website? So it's super complicated. You have to put the monetization meta tag with the payment pointer, which is like your wallet. And basically that's it. If somebody enters the website is already recognized as web monetized. What's the payment pointer? So basically, you have to create a wallet, and then your wallet will have this payment pointer. Right now, there are like already three different services offering wallets. So the first ones were operating with XRP, Ripple, cryptocurrency, because the founders of Coil were the founders of Ripple, if I'm not mistaken. But there are already wallets offering dollars, and I can totally imagine wallets offering any kind of currency or cryptocurrency or whatever. And if someone visits the website that is monetized, the money are streamed real time to the wallet. So it's not like waiting half a year for a publisher to tell you that, we don't have any money for you. The stream of money goes directly to you. So I mentioned the wallets. There is the XRP tip bot with Ripple, GateHub also with Ripple, but I think they announced more canals since in the near future. Stronghold deals with United States dollars. So the subscription thing works like a gym membership. So basically, you pay $5 a month, and you can visit the monetized websites and take the advantage of being a paying subscriber. And the money are not taken from your account. It's Coil who pays the money to the content author. Okay, so from the user point of view, it works really nice. From the developer point of view, so the meta tag is one thing. The other is actually trying to detect if the visitors are paying subscribers. That's also super complicated. If document monetization state is started, you can assume that this is a paying subscriber and you can offer some extra content. You can do the exact same thing with the event. If monetization actually started, you can assume the visitor is a paying subscriber. And then you can offer some extra content. So for example, in the Flood Escape game, if someone is a paying subscriber, they will get 100 coins extra. They will wait for the Wheel of Fortune 5 minutes, not 10 minutes. And they have access to the super special level 1 of 5 or something like that. So you can offer any type of extra content. The Coil guys are calling this 100 plus 20%. So it's not about taking the content out and asking to pay for it, but having the full experience and offering something extra. So extra weapon, extra bonus for whatever. And the best thing, at least for me, is that if I'm implementing web monetization, I don't need to worry about the adverts. I can totally forget about all the privacy issues. I don't have to worry that the companies offering adverts will spy on my users. I don't have to worry they will sell the data, etc., etc. I can take the adverts, throw them away, and earn money totally differently. So we can literally you can decide to earn money on the web and don't have to worry about trying to package your game or application or whatever to native stores. So a little difference between the classic publisher and the web monetization in terms of monetization, not the distribution, is that dealing with publishers is really crappy. It really takes a lot of time. Everybody have different APIs, different SDKs you have to deal with. They're constantly changing. That's really crappy. Instead of that, you can just say, my website is web monetized, and then if you're paying subscriber, you get this content, and I don't have to work on some weird SDKs. I can work on my own content. I can work on my own game. So basically, it's just adding stuff to the things I already know how to build. So instead of like waiting months for the report saying, well, we weren't gonna pay you anything, go away, find someone else. I can see the money being streamed directly to my wallet after, so it scales perfectly. It works for one user, it will work for 1 million users. So it's just a matter of seeing more money on the wallet, on the account. And yeah, it works in real time. So I can literally go to my wallet and see money flowing. I have to say it's still micro amounts. You won't get rich right now, but it scales perfectly well, and it should work really nice in the near future. We tested that at the Mozilla Festival. That was last month, 2 months ago. We had a booth with web monetized games, and it was really cool to see people. So we had like 4 laptops with the games and 1 laptop with the live view on the wallet, and people were like playing and then realizing, nice, I'm paying you in real time. So that was really, really cool to see. So it sounds nice, but you have to invest your time in that. There were many different breakthrough technologies, ideas, etc., which were like saying like, if you try that, and if there will be millions of users, you will earn millions of dollars. The good thing about the web monetization thing is that it's an open standard, and there is a grant for the web fund from which COIL, Mozilla, and Creative Commons will offer $100 million for any content creators to try web monetization. So one thing is trying the web monetization, seeing those micro amounts appearing on the wallet, and the entirely different thing is getting paid to actually try that. So you can get money for seeing if web monetization can work for you, and then if it works, you can earn from the monetization itself. So to summarize, I said that technology is sufficient, we can always improve it, we can mix it, we can do something with it, we can see how the new APIs, new technologies are helping us build really cool experiences. The discoverability problems can be fixed with better indexing tools, providing search engines with some basic information about the games. And the monetization issues could be magically fixed with Web Monetization API. So I totally recommend you trying the technologies, trying the Web Monetization thing, even if you're if you build games, if you build websites, if you have a podcast or whatever, if you create any type of content for the web, I encourage you to try all that and build the future. Thank you.
Bravo.
Any questions? Yep.
Oh, okay. Coming. All righty then. Where were you again? Hand up.
Hi, I have one silly question. Are those wallets somehow protected? I mean, can I write an extension that simply changes the meta tag and changes it to a different wallet?
Basically, yeah. That's the problem with it. I mean, okay. So... I mean, you can do it securely. You can connect with a backend and verify this. So you can play with it right now. You can hack it right now. You can hack document monetization, but it kind of makes no sense. I mean, you want to, if you're visiting a website of a YouTuber you like to watch, and for your visit, some company is paying them, and you want to hack it, so you will see the, oh, thank you so much for being generous to me, pop-up, appear to you. If you're not paying, you can do it, but, you know, it really sucks. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm simply asking because we also have users that are breaking our licenses. So you know, I don't want to use it.
Yes, so that was a really good question. And if so, you can play with it right now. You can hack it, but it could be verified. It could be so there is a like you can connect to a server that will verify if someone is actually a paying subscriber, and then some content can be revealed, sent, or whatever. So with how I showed it, as if document monetization is there, you can hack it, but you can totally make it a secure thing.
Okay, another question. A couple of years ago, Mozilla cooperated with Epic Games, and they ported Unreal Engine to web browser, which was pretty impressive. But since then, I am not following the topic closely, but the thing seems to be dead. Do you know anything about this, and do you know why is it dead? Because this opens up the world of AAAs in the web browser, right?
The cooperation between those companies is so kind of stopped, but the technology is itself. So basically, it was possible with the asm.js, which evolved into WebAssembly. Which is used to export from Unreal and Unity to the web, which works pretty nice. So I would say it's far from that. There is just no much fuss about it because it just works. There is Unity Tiny, which is about exporting small games, like for Facebook Instant Messaging or something like that, which also works really nice, which I think it also uses WebAssembly. So I would say it's far from that. It's just, you don't have to like make huge noise about it because it just works. And it is used to export from Unreal and Unity to the web, and it got better and better over the years. And like developers were improving it, and it just works.
Thank you very much. It's very funny. Listen, remember, folks, this is a great thing I see on the screen. Go out and build the future of the web. Most importantly, remember that you do what you do because you love what you do. And always remember, it's not all about the dum-dum. Yeah, it's not all about the monetization. I love when you said the monetization magically appears. My next favorite phrase. Listen, everyone, give a big hand one more time. And fantastic, really nice presentation. When we start talking about the money, it always turns into a different conversation.